For G2, I think G2 are a team that are really, really. Their bot lane is kind of smurfing. Like, I think Mickey is probably the best.
He could be the MVP as well, right?
I mean, if I was voting, I would say Mickey is MVP.
I think it's not unfair if you look what he's done compared to everyone at his role. He's been amazing.
Yeah.
I had him too. On another show, like that was already removed, so I made an argument for Exakick, but yeah.
I mean, Exakick's a fine one too. Like, I'd also say this as well. Like, the other thing as well for me is one thing we've done a good job, I think, of making a case on this show is that, like, look, Yike isn't like the best jungler in the whole fucking LEC. They've set him up very correctly. And one thing that's definitely helped him is, of course, he can play all these crazy fucking champions where Mickey X is just permanently engaged. Like, that's going to help. Like, the way they've actually, like, brought this team together is very impressive, Peter. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, like, Yike from in ERLs, he was not mute, but he was on a scale of like 1 to 10. Where 10 is super vocal, he was like a 3 or something, a 2 or 3, which is low for a jungler. I think like on his team, Iker and DOS were doing a lot of shot calling for him. So the fact that they managed to incorporate somebody like that into G2 is very, very impressive. I think he still makes some kind of basic pathing mistakes sometimes that get covered by his mid and bot lane, but I mean, I'm impressed by how well he's done and I think that how well he's improved. But the big test for somebody like this is when, they're not stomping 2v2 bot and 1v1 mid, and the enemy support is contesting him in the river, right? And let's see how he reacts then.
He also has some fucking amazing follow-up. Like, mate, the amount of times like Caps is with him or Broken Blade or something. It must be the dream start if you're a rookie jungler, put that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's good. I mean, he looked like the real deal in ERLs, and he's still looking solid. I think the way that he plays like the map and how he snowballs games is really good. I mean, I guess the biggest question for G2 is like what happens when they're not stomping early games.
Basically,
like
if they go international, when they go to MSI, right?
Yeah, because this team is probably going to MSI, like regardless, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so when they go to MSI and they're not actually able to like win their lanes, they have to make comeback plays, and teams are punishing them more. How does that actually translate? Because their style seems really good when they're ahead, but you still see like games that if they're losing hard, I mean, I guess most teams don't win if they're losing hard, but if they're down like 2 or 3K in the mid game, it feels like it's almost doomed, unless they have like a massive comp advantage, which they are able to get, which is good, because I feel like a lot of teams don't actually give themselves the ability to have, creative drafts, but it's hard to do. It's extremely hard to execute like this, even coming from the draft phase.
Didn't they pick Udyr once into like the most anti-Udyr comp you can possibly get?
Yeah, it was versus Vitality.
Yeah, I remember that game. It was like impossible to play Udyr in that game. But like what I would say, so it may seem a bit ridiculous for a coach of the 8th place team to say this, but basically, there's the winter split and spring split. If they're won by different people, mean that different teams qualify for MSI. And all I can say is that looking in scrims and looking at stage performance, I'm just cheering really hard for G2 this winter split, right? To like give the opportunity for a good spring split performance to get somebody to go to MSI, because this team is very, very impressive. That's what I would say.
Okay, I saw you with the same, Dom. I thought at the end he was trying to make it sound like they needed to go now because they're not going to be good. But he actually just meant that they're the best team now, and he wants them to go from this split by winning the split.
I thought he was going to go like it might sound weird from like the 8th place team, but they're actually shit.
Like, basically, if they don't win this one, we're taking all the next ones and fuck G2.
I mean, all I say is imagine you're a coach for another team in LEC. And G2 just decide that they're going to throw a series against Corey or Mad, right? Like they just decide like we're just going to have a laugh, right? Yes. And then you have to go and beat this G2 team in a best of 5 in swing. Like, it's intimidating. Obviously, let's be realistic, right? This is a team that maybe I'm showing a bit too much respect for them as a coach for another team, but let's be frank, like. They are very, very strong right now, and obviously we have to find a solution against them. But all I would say is that they're a team that's very, very well prepped, and that they're a team that is ruthless when they are ahead. That's what I would say. So the previous iterations of G2 would sometimes mess around a little bit too much, but this G2, If they're going to int, they're going to int in the early game, but they will close out.
Yeah. I mean, at least they're winning some of their games, because like in this series, this is the first time where we actually saw like some comebacks. I mean, I think that they had stylistic like wins, and I mean they definitely did get some help from Koi. Like it wasn't really that G2 was making a comeback play from behind. It was like that Koi was over forcing. But I mean, at least they were able to like catch the throws, whereas before it felt like they would kind of like shut down a bit.
Plus, I'll say in this series, game 2 was a really dominant win. Like that did look fucking fantastic. Like if they play like that, they can do a lot. Yeah, they should represent Europe. Also, the other thing to add in as well is, even though he's not actually had the most smurf split, like a lot of people probably don't have Caps as their MVP. I don't think people get it, dude. He didn't just do that like Buster shot once. He did it like 3 times in a row. Like
the W buffer.
Oh, sorry, the W. Yeah, that's just OP as fuck, mate. That's just OP as fuck.
Yeah. Super OP.
Like that would have been like a couple of kills for Koi in some of those scenarios.
Oh, that's probably a game loss. If he's not able to buffer it every single time, I think they actually lose this game.
Because the fact he did it every time is so impressive. It's fucking.
I mean, he had a ton of gold on him, number one, and then also like these are just the kills that make Ahri go from being kind of like a minion champ to being now if you're getting hit by a charm combo, you're just one shot. So, I mean, if he doesn't buffer the ult every time, then he's just going to be dead in all these fights, because they don't have another good target to ult, right? Like he made it so there was actually no good target on G2 because the Vi is playing into what? He's playing against a Sivir. You don't want to ulti the Radiant Virtue Karma support. The other one's a Maokai and the last one's an Olaf. Like who the fuck else can you ult? Yeah, exactly. So I mean, they lose the game at this dragon fight if he doesn't buffer the ult. Like he's just getting absolute one shot here if he doesn't buffer the ult combo. So yeah, impressive from Caps. I've never seen anyone be able to do it that consistently.
No, exactly. The idea you just like to do it once would be cool, but he just did it like every time it mattered, every fucking time. Because like I say, that was the way back into the game. Whereas then they're unkillable. Like the Olaf just kills everyone, doesn't he? Like just game over when he presses R. What do you want? By the way, one thing we didn't talk about, one angle I was going to bring up on the Koi one, but you already went into the G2 stuff, because I agree with all the points so far, is one angle that I do actually find really fun about watching Koi play is, I want to get your take on this, Peter, is right now, Trimby's champion pools are all the most fun parts of the fucking LEC for me, mate. Like, he is bringing in all that fucking tech from Korea and all the fucking LPL, etc. Like that fucking Kalista game was super exciting to watch. Like there was so many moments where he could have had one extra kill, or he came in. Like, what do you think on this? Because it seems like he's the only person of the Western supports that plays like almost everything right now.
Yep, I think that's fair. Soraka is also incredible. I mean, what I would say for Trimby is Trimby has always been probably the best. No, I mean definitely. I'm just trying to think. He's always been the best Western support on range champions. But meta is changing away from that right now towards melee champion. So let's see how he does next split. But definitely he is the only one, and I include Mickey in this, who is as consistent as he is on those champions. But obviously Mickey is required to do a different role for G2, right?
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's impressive. And this is something that Koi were very good at last year. I think Koi were Rogue were the only team in Europe that I would consistently trust with Caitlyn Lux. Last year, and I think comp enables that.
You don't trust, too, right? What about Neon Kaiser? You trust their Caitlyn Lux?
Yes, especially when they're playing against us. I definitely trust it, and I think they should keep it. But I think that the thing that I really like about Trimby is how they play their limits on when they're stepping forwards, right? And when Trimby is caught in a position where he is too far forward or he's out of position, comp will cover him. Often at expense of summoners if he has to, right? So it's not just the Trimby thing. So I think that those two together are just very good, like very, very strong in this meta. And I'm just trying to think Caitlyn Lux in this meta. The only other team that can do it at like a reasonable level is SK, and there's a massive gap between how SK play Caitlyn Lux and how Koi play Caitlyn Lux for sure.
Yeah, I just feel like Koi just their bot lane when. I trusted them more before. Like they had all the answers, right? If you picked an enchanter, they were gonna run like the Kalista Soraka. They had the Caitlyn Lux. They have the Nami Lucian. But now it just feels like I don't trust them on Nami Lucian anymore. When Koi get Nami Lucian, I think that they're gonna lose the game. I don't know what their win rate is on it, but it feels like they lose almost all the time where they get it, or they're at least just not effective bot lane when they play it.
Yeah, but I think that's more about how they play mid game, right? How they contest mid wave.
Well, I think even their like laning phase looks worse as well.
Sure.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.